They're the in crowd, we're the other ones. It's a different kind of cloth that we're cut from. We let our colors show where the numbers ain't. We're the paint where there ain't supposed to be paint. That's who we are. That's how we roll. The outsiders. The outsiders.
I will get high and I never get stained when we saddle up and ride 'em in the pouring rain. When a junkyard dogs with the alley cats keep the wind in the front and the hell out of back. That's who we are. I talk, walk and walk wide open rock. That's how we roll. Back to the wall, a band of brothers together along the outsiders. We're the riders, we're the ones burning rubber up our tires. Yeah, we're the fighters, they all-nighters. So fire 'em up and get a little higher. The outsiders. The outsiders. You're gonna know who we are.
We started the Elite Cup Series playoffs with 16 drivers. We then cut it down to 12, and now we're down to 8, vying for a spot in the Championship 4. However, the path to the Championship 4 will not be easy, as now the drivers will have to take on the shortest track that we will visit all season. Underneath the lights in coastal South Carolina, this is the Myrtle Beach 500. Hello again, everybody. I'm Colin Denton with RVN, and welcome to the opening race of the round of 8. We've split the playoff field in half, but now these drivers will take on their most treacherous challenge yet. 2 short tracks in the final 4 races, tonight at Myrtle Beach and the penultimate race at Carbondale. Now, we've had 3-mile-long tracks so far these playoffs, but this is the shortest track on the schedule overall, so starting in the back is going to be a huge detriment to those that are trying to make up spots and get their way in for a shot at the title. Now, our last race at Milwaukee had plenty of excitement. Julio Caesar and Stuart Gradden went at it for the final spot in this round of 8. We take you back to the tape. Julio Caesar qualifying mid-pack. Stuart Gradden already outside the cut line, way in the back of the field. We take you ahead late in the race. Tyler Markell turns Jonathan Rains. Julio Caesar goes fully sideways in this incident, and Stuart Gradden has to brake hard to avoid the entire thing. Then later on the backstretch, 3-wide situation goes awry. Julio Caesar drives straight into the side of Reese Butcher, and Gradden gets into Caesar. It comes down to the last laps. Gradden's able to get around Ashley for an additional point, but at the end of the race, Caesar was still ahead by 1 point despite that smashed up race car, and he will advance to the round of 8. We take a look at the standings after Milwaukee Mile. David Davidson grabbing the win there. Jake Baskinger comfortably ahead along with Bruno DeBarros, Jack Porkins, John Arndt. William Brock and NASCAR Fan 19 also just able to stay in, while we also eliminated Philip Fry, Emmett Sashley, and Adam Mundinger, who all had their rough shares of days. Taking a look at our map across the U.S., heading out of Milwaukee, from Lakeside we go Oceanside, down to South Carolina, Myrtle Beach Speedway, a track with a lot of history. Former host to NASCAR Cup and O'Reilly Series races, and a population of over 35,000. And if they're not talking about racing down here, they're certainly talking about golf. It is one of the hot spots down here and one of the fastest growing metro areas in the U.S. We go on board our NFRN test car to see what this circuit looks like track level. Heading down into turn 1, you can see that dashboard lighting up. These teams are really going to be playing with those gear ratios, trying to maximize their speed down into these corners. And they're going to turn these laps very fast. The pole sitting time was a 17.5, so expect these cars to go around here in under 18 seconds as our test car takes the start-finish line. We take a look at our Amateur Cup Series drivers trying to get into the race. Dwayne Calloway had the pole as the points leader, but Shane Borland on the outside probably had the preferred lane, so he was able to get out to a good jump. Unfortunately, a bit of contact back here between Sparky the Sun Devil and Kenny Knox send them both into the wall. Eric Van Arsdale kind of a unfortunate victim there, and then a little bit of contact after the fact, and doesn't seem like Kenny Knox appreciated that as he sends Sparky into the wall with Van Arsdale, and I imagine that the NFRN officials are going to take a look at that later on. We see a bump here. Donnie Moore moves Connor Mays out of the transfer spot. Mays rides the wall, tries to keep going, but unfortunately for him, he is going to fade back into oblivion, and Donnie Moore is going to steal the final spot into the show. Shane Borland leads from the jump. Kyle Law, Dwayne Calloway, John Gilbert, and Austin Rogers also qualifying along with Donnie Moore. And those three drivers that had tangled earlier in the race end up in the back of the field. Taking a look at our hot seat on board tonight, it will be David Davidson, our winner at Milwaukee, who's also had some pretty solid finishes over the last 4 races. Got a top 5 at NASCAR and a top 20 at Simtel Park. We'll get a look at the playoff driver as he tries to chase down a spot into the Championship 4. 1 season ago, it was Quarter Slammer that opened up the round of 8. It was a pretty eventful race. Let's see if Myrtle Beach has anything to match it. That's going to do it for our pre-race coverage. Let's go down trackside and get the starting command.
Race fans, it's time for the most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command, please welcome today's Grand Marshal, First Data CEO and Chairman, Frank Visignano.
Drivers, start your engines!
Crank on your ready. 24 box. Time when you're ready. And the
42 engines light up the night. Time to see if one of those 8 that are in the playoffs can punch their ticket to the Championship 4. Let's take a look at tonight's starting grid, led by Julio Caesar, playoff driver, getting his first career pole, and Stephen Willie, his first front row start since race number 3 of season 1. A couple of drivers with top 10s at Milwaukee in row 2, the other JR, and Jake Baskinger, our second playoff driver. 2 straight 6th place finishes for the driver in P5, Gerard Irwan. Outside is Austin Rogers, looking for his first top 20 since Columbia. Inside of row 4, Donnie Moore, top 20 in all 3 Amateur Cup Series short tracks so far, and Jonathan Rains did not have a top 20 in the last playoff round. Rounding out the top 10, Nick Smith looking for his second straight short track top 10, and Zachary Fitzwater Sr., who has not had a top 30 in these playoffs. Our Milwaukee winner, David Davidson, on the inside of row 6. Outside is Noah Cars. None of his 7 career top 10s have come on a short track. Row 7, Dominic Carranza got a top 20 at Milwaukee, and Shane Borland finished 8th in his last made race at Ontario. Mitchell Mark likes these short tracks. He has an 18.3 average. That's his best oval type. He's on the inside of row 8 alongside William Brock, another playoff driver whose best finish on a short track this season is 15th at Mirage. 2 7th place short track finishes for Jack Krause, who starts on the inside of row 9, and Dale Jr. Fan 88-83, 4 top 20s in the last 6 races. In row 10, we have Eli Bright, who's been bouncing in between getting top 20s and outside top 30s in the last few races, and Adam Mundinger just has 1 top 20 in the last 5 races. John Arndt back in the round of 8, 2 top 10s last round. He'll start inside row 11 alongside Stuart Gradden, who fell just short of advancing. Row 12 has Cody Hagan, who has 2 top 5s on short tracks, and John Gilbert, who finished 4th at Milwaukee. Allison Rain picked up her first top 10 at a mile or less track, finishing 8th at Milwaukee. She'll start alongside Caleb Campbell in row 13, 2 top 20s at short tracks. Inside row 14, Rambo tied his season high with a 3rd at Milwaukee, and Brad Stover finished 2nd at our last short track of Nazareth. Eric Monaco proving to do well on these shorter tracks, 5 top 20s on mile or less tracks, and outside of him is Dwayne Calloway, the current Amateur Cup Series points leader. Another playoff contender in row 16, Bruno De Barros, got top 10s on every mile track but has none on short tracks. Tyler Markell, top 20 in the last 3 races. The driver that failed to advance, Amethyst Ashley, on the inside of row 17, alongside one who did, Jack Porkins, has a top 10 on every mile, and he won our most recent short track at Nazareth. NASCAR Fan 19's been pretty solid on short tracks. His worst finish this season is 13th at Nazareth. Alongside him is Kyle Law, who finished 17th at Milwaukee. That's his best Elite Cup Series finish. Rampage has now gone 9 straight races without a top 20. He's going to start on the inside of row 19. And alongside him is Aiden Shepard, 2 top 20s on short tracks. The Ontario winner, Noah Ponser, starts on the inside of row 20 alongside Philip Fry, who has 2 short track top 5s. And starting shotgun on the field, Reese Butcher, the driver we tend to call the short track master for his excellence on these types of tracks. He's going to have to come from way back alongside Ryan Maiden, who has 7 straight finishes outside the top 30. As the drivers finally leave their grid positions, the list of pole winners grows ever longer as Julio Caesar, now our first-time pole winner, will have the best view in the house for the start of this race. We'll see all these drivers run the Clash at the start of next season, should they return to the series. And we remind you that all playoff drivers have onboards that are available throughout the race. head over to the NFRN channel in the description, and you can check those 8 drivers out all race long. The pace car is down to pit lane. They come off of turn 4, and the green flag's out for Myrtle Beach. We've already got one car in the wall. That's Kyle Law, who slaps the outside wall, but we are still green, and Stephen Willie leads the first lap. Julio Caesar does not get the bonus point, and we kind of expected this, seeing how they ran in the Amateur Cup Series qualifier, the truck race, the Champions League race. The outside line just seems to have a little bit better exit, and Stephen Willie took full advantage of that. You see some of those drivers that are coming from a little bit further back, like Bruno De Barros, NASCAR Fan 19. They are trying to work their way through the field. De Barros has been excellent in this chase. Even though he doesn't have a win to his name, he has the second best average among the drivers that are still competing here. Now he's just trying to find his way forward, and they are 3 wide through these corners. Dominic Carranza trying to make sure he doesn't run into William Brock, and they're really tight. Trying to keep off his fender, but man, that is a close call for William Brock trying to work his way up. He's in the 13th position right now. Finally makes his way to the outside line, which is probably going to be good for him. The other JR kind of trapped down there right now as Austin Rogers hanging in there. He might be able to slide up now, as we saw Kyle Law is on pit lane trying to get some damage repaired. Riding on board Davidson, who is down on the inside. And trouble heading down into turn 1. De Barros gets into Markel, and Eric Monaco goes around. Rambo in the 4 car, also a part of that. Boy, they went down into turn 1, and it looks like they were just about 4 wide, and De Barros did not give any room there. He really tried to squeeze a gap that was not available, it seemed like. We'll take a look at the replay and see what exactly happened there after we see whether any of these cars are going to come down and take a pit stop. You can see they are going around turn 3 and 4. This is a special rule in place for this track because it is so small. They are going to not pit on the first lap around. They're going to get in line, make sure everyone is sorted in the position that they should be in. And that's just to make it a little less busy on entry for the safety of the crews that are down at that end of the track. And it does look like the cars are angling to go to pit lane, so we will see some pit stops here. Not sure if anyone plans to stay out, but we'll see how many tires these drivers want to go for as Stephen Willie leads down the field. All in tight quarters. One car outside there, you can see Kyle Law. He was on pit lane. He got some damage repaired, and he's back on track. We'll take a look at some of those contenders for the playoffs as they come down. Jack Porkins, the lone Ford representation. He's back in turn number 4. Caesar up at the front of the field, and we can see Stephen Willie. Doesn't look like he took any tires as he just pulls away, and everyone else seemed to go for tires. It looks like Caesar's going for 4, and he's going to lose a lot of track position here. Looking at the race off of pit lane, and yeah, Stephen Willie went for no tires. He's going to maintain the lead, but we'll see if these tires do anything for these drivers, as Julio Caesar and Gerardo Ron both went for 4, and they dropped 4 spots as a result, and several drivers went for 2 tires there. Taking a look at first incident, and Kyle Law, got into, I believe that was Amethyst Ashley. And indeed it was, so the 75 makes contact with the 57 going down into the corner. Kind of hooks the 57 into the outside wall, but it looks like 75 got off a little bit worse in that deal, even though the 57 took quite a shot into the outside wall. I'd like to see what kind of damage that Ashley has in that, but Law was the one we just saw kind of lingering up there against the outside wall. I don't believe that Ashley ever went down for a pit stop. And then looking at what happened here. I believe Markel got into Rambo, and it looks like that forces De Barros down into the grass, and that adds a lot more context to the story as they all go down in this corner. And yep, that's where De Barros makes contact, and that's kind of where we picked it up there. But that really kind of exonerates De Barros in terms of his involvement there. He certainly did make contact with Markel that sent Monaco around, but it was contact with Markel and Rambo in the first place that kind of shoved the 12 into the grass and kind of lost his control and sent him shallow into the entry of the corner. Take a look at it here from De Barros' view. And yeah, Markel just gets a piece of the 4-car there, and then as he re-enters the track, De Barros gets into the 48. Now riding on board Jack Porkins, he's going to have a view of this. Boy, he got really lucky there. It looks like he jumped on the brakes and almost shot him straight into the accident, but fortunately was able to escape, and he's going to continue on racing as we go back to green flag. Stephen Willey got a really good jump. No tires on that last pit stop. Doesn't seem like he really needed them. Admittedly, we only had about 5 or 6 laps of green. And Kyle Law, the lap down car, is going to take advantage of the gap and put himself in the line and see if he can get back on the lead lap by racing his way around the 62. As we see a little bit of action already brewing back here. Still pretty single file from front to back, but unfortunately for De Barros, he is all the way at the back of the field. Looks like he got some damage repaired just to make sure that he wasn't going to run into any issues, but unfortunately that puts him effectively half a lap down already. It's Jack Porkins also trying to work that outside line. Not a good night right now for AMI Incorporated, as we already saw the contact that Amethyst Ashley took. And now De Barros trying to come up from the rear of the field. You can see the chase watch on the right side. He is now 32 points below the cut line. The way that they currently run, and obviously this is the first race of the round of 8. There is plenty of time to make up ground, but you don't want to start on the wrong foot. So we see a battle here between two chasers. William Brock trying to challenge David Davidson. The way they're running right now, we'd say the 11 has the preferred line, and Brock's trying to make the inside work, but unfortunately he can't get the exit. Oh, and the 57 is back in the wall. Had another incident. My goodness, she is not having a lot of luck in these playoffs. Had that tough run at Texas World, getting the crash with Allison Rain. Had the 35th place finish at Ontario, which was admittedly just a terrible strategy from the team. Really, the only highlight from these playoffs was the runner-up finish at Toronto Lakeshore that helped propel her into the round of 12, but did not make it into this round despite finishing top 20 at Milwaukee. Looking at Julio Caesar now, the pole sitter. Obviously lost that ground with the 4 fresh tires, but those tires just don't seem to really be doing anything for him. So we sneak back toward the rear of the field, and Jack Porkins on the outside at 3 wide. That is not a comfortable position. Markel on the middle, Allison Rain in the inside. And you can see just the advantage that that 04 has being on the outside line, getting the shot out of the corner. He just needs to get clear of all this other traffic. Now looking at Ashley, who's already had a couple contacts with the wall, and Reese Butcher running side by side, and you could probably tell that the 90 is running faster because the 57 has that damage. This is a matter of, can he clear Ashley off the corner, and not quite yet, and Porkins is hoping that he's going to be able to do the same at some point. And you can see Kyle Law is really running up on Stephen Willey, trying to get one of his laps back. As the leaderboard went by, we saw that he is 2 laps down after making the unscheduled pit stop. See Jake Baskinger running there in second place. He has got top 20 in every chase race, 4 of them being top 10s, and he's on a good pace right now, running in the runner-up spot. Still a long way to go. Only a fifth of the way through the race. But I'm sure he's watching on with intrigued eyes as the 75 continues to harass the 62 from the back end. We'll do a run-through of our playoff drivers and where they run at the moment. And Julio Caesar, who just snuck away with that round of 8 bid over Stuart Gradden, hoping that he can take that Columbia win he got at the start of the season and translate it into a Championship 4 appearance. He's been very solid throughout this season. Hasn't gotten back to victory lane, but he has a chance to go for a title here still. David Davidson, who won his way into the round of 8, even though he probably had plenty of wiggle room if he had just had a solid finish. but he still runs up here in the top 10 and above the cut line as it stands, with William Brock just behind him. This is the 12th time that William Brock's run on a mile or less track in the Elite Cup Series, and only one time has he gotten a top 10. That was at Delaware in Season 1, the first short track that we ran in the series. And he clearly does not have a great time on these short tracks, but trying to see what he can do here as he currently runs in the 10th position. Back in 20th is NASCAR Fan 19. He's got 6 top 20s in the last 8 races, but no top 10s, and at the moment he's trending toward another one of those top 20s that would not result in a top 10, but still plenty of time to go, as we mentioned. A lot of the field has gone single file, with the exception of a few rows that are still running side by side, like John Arndt on the inside here. Unfortunate incident in Milwaukee, running into the pit lane wall. It really set him back, but fortunately he had 2 top 10s to start the round and still had plenty of time to qualify into the round of 8. As problems here on the front stretch, and Eric Monaco goes around again, and big contact there. That's Jack Porkins involved as Reese Butcher goes into the outside wall. Caution is out. Monaco involved in a second incident. Oh, and another car over. That's Amethyst Ashley. And she's going to end up on her roof. That's down in turn 3. And I believe her teammate and chase contender Bruno De Barros was also involved in that, along with, I believe, Noah Poncer I saw exiting the view of the camera. But that was completely unrelated to this incident we had on the front stretch, which saw Jack Porkins squeezed into the outside wall. You see the damage on the left side, and I'm sure there's more on the right side as well. Dominic Carranza coming to the pits. I believe the pit is still closed, but these are some drivers that need some emergency service. De Barros being one of them, as he certainly seemed to take a hit to the outside wall in that incident involving his teammate. Also saw Noah Cars coming down for service. Now the pits are officially open, and it looks like everyone's coming down once again. And Stephen Willie still on the tires that he started the race with. We'll see if he ends up taking a new set here, as De Barros is going to go a lap down. So that's a development we'll have to follow. It looks like possibly Carranza and Cars will fall down a lap as well. We'll follow those same drivers we followed at the start. Carranza pulls off pit lane. I'm curious if he's going to stay on the lead lap there. But we're seeing these drivers all taking 4 tires. That seems to be the normal call here, as now we've run a longer green flag stint, and Stephen Willie's still going to win the race off of pit lane, with Baskinger following just behind. See if Caesar lost any ground this time. Looks like he did lose a spot to Jonathan Rains there, but it was 4 tires across the grid. The only other change in that order being Fitzwater Sr. taking a spot over Gerard Irwan. Okay, let's first take a look at what got Ashley into the wall the first time, or the second time in this race, that is. It looks like it was a bit of contact from Caleb Campbell from behind, sending her into the outside wall. Honestly, did a pretty nice job of minimizing the damage. Was able to jump off the throttle there as Rambo tries to go by. Eli Bright also held up a little bit. And then here's what happens off the turn 4. We saw this battle kind of brewing, and Czech Borkins got into Eric Monaco, and Reese Butcher was on the inside, and just the contact sent the 33 around perfectly. But Reese Butcher is going to strike the inside wall here and ricochet back up into Jack Borkins, who's already gotten into the outside wall. And there's the big squeeze, with Allison Rain being in the middle of the sandwich. And Jack Krause also collected by Eric Monaco in the back. But that's certainly going to do some damage to Jack Porkins. And unfortunately, the nightmare race continues for Monaco. Now let's ride on board Porkins for this. And wow, he got into Butcher going into turn 3. And then he comes up on Monaco, who already has a little bit of damage, so probably a little bit slower off the exit. But unfortunately for him, Karma's going to come back and bite him, and he's going to get damage out of that whole ordeal. All right, let's see what other incidents I believe this is something we didn't pick up on. And it looks like Carranza is going to get into Noah Cars, so that's those two coming to pit lane early as 24 just hooks the 44 into the wall. And heavy damage for both of those drivers. That's why we saw both of them come down prematurely. That was down in turn 3. As we watch on board NASCAR Fan 19. Boy, that is just such an awful angle there. And finally, we should get a look at what happens here between Ashley, Poncer, and DeBarros. The 12 car is on the outside, and it, again, is a hook going into turn 3 by Poncer. And that is a heavy shot for all three of those drivers, and Ashley will end up going up on her roof, and that's going to end her day early. Also put DeBarros a lap down. As we saw, he was on pit lane for an extensive amount of time. Here's the onboard from DeBarros. He's going to get a first look at this accident happening right in front of him. And he's able to escape. He's not going to be able to escape what happens next. We're at Myrtle Beach. We're under caution. And a heavy hit here for a playoff driver.
Well, we wanted to do something for our fans.
I want Kyle Busch in a pink car in a pink suit.
And now, they get to be our sponsors.
This has always been artistic.
And she loves those cats.
Who doesn't like kittens, bunnies, and little baby seals?
I love you.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart.
No, write that on the spoiler.
Okay.
What will you design? ToyotaRacing.com.
Back at Myrtle Beach, we're about to complete lap 34. The two drivers dropping out of the race are Noah Cars and Amethyst Ashley. We're back to green here. Stephen Woolley leading the way over Jake Baskinger. Carranza did fall a lap down. Joins Kyle Law, who is actually only one lap down now, so he got one of his laps back. DeBarros is also a lap down, but did not join those laps cars on the inside. And now those two laps cars get together. Law and Carranza, the 24 strikes the inside wall, but is able to get back on track without causing further issue. But now, Law has slid back, and he is going to have a harder time trying to get his other lap back. And the 24 has damage on the front end. Boy, turn 4 has been quite the place to get into other drivers, and fortunately that time we were able to keep it going. But now Carranza has even further troubles on top of what he was already dealing with. Once again, the 11 and 23 running side by side. This is still a battle for 9th as Philip Pry trying to enter the conversation. '78 really peeking in there as they continue to run side by side. You would think the 11 is going to have the advantage here, and he is starting to get a little further ahead of the 23, but give credit to Brock. He is really running that inside line well. Now it's just a matter of if he's able to get around the 11 car and clear him. But how about the 78 of Philip Fry making it 3 wide going down into turn 1? Fry did not want to wait for these two, continuing the battle, and boy, they're still 3 wide going through turn 3 and 4. And I think the 11 and 78 are rubbing when we go on board the 11 for this battle. Surprised the 78 is holding his own right now, as Davidson continues to hog that outside line that seems to be the preferred way. And we got trouble into the outside wall. I see John Gilbert. Rampage is up there. I think Callaway and Stover might have been involved, but we are still green as everyone keeps it straight. But Gilbert still has some problems as he's scraping the wall going down into turn 1. And it looks like he's going to take it to the pits. Some serious rear damage to his car. So he's going to pit under green here, and that's going to be unfortunate for him. Let's try to get back onto our playoff conversation as we see John Arndt only averaging a 24th place finish on short tracks this season. Has not been his forte, and he's currently 13 points out of the championship 4 as it stands. He's trying to work his way around Reese Butcher, who has a bit of damage on his race car after his incident on that last caution. And further back, we see NASCAR Fan 19 trying to battle around the 76 car. Now sitting 2 positions outside of the cut line with William Brock running up there. You can see separated by Mitchell Mark and the lapped car of Kyle Law. Oh, and Porkinson's to the outside wall. And trailing smoke, the 04 car is destroyed. Caution out for the 3rd time. And it looks like we're going to drop a chase contender right here as the leaders go by trying to take evasive action, racing back to the start-finish line. And that's a day ender for Jack Porkins into the outside wall, entering turn 3. And we've already seen a couple situations of drivers getting hooked, and I wonder if we have another one of those in this incident, and I'm sure the replay will tell the story. But it's going to be the end of the day for the 04 as we try to get the running order figured out. Looks like the leaders passed a few of the cars that are at the tail end of the lead lap as we see the Barrows going by. Not entirely sure why he wasn't grouped up with the lapped cars on the inside line. Maybe he'll do that right here on this next restart, but we are going to have these cars coming back down to pit lane. We'll see if there's any alternate strategies. They certainly played it a little bit different on the first stop when we only had about 5 green flag laps. Everyone seemed to go for a 4-tire strategy last time down. We'll see if they prefer 4 tires once again now that we had a fairly long stint there. Jake Bassinger, the first one into his box, looking for some tires, and I believe I do see some in the background, and that is going to be a 4-tire stop for the 84 car. And it looks like Caesar's going to do the same along with Davidson. And Stephen Woolley will once again win the race off of pit lane. Let's take a look at those results, and will be a gain for Caesar, Reigns, and Fry gained 4 spots there. Meanwhile, the other JR 98 car dropped 5. But it was 4 tires all around, and let's see what kind of action we had here. So this was the first incident involving Kyle Law and Dominic Carranza. It looks like the 75 was just a little bit faster than the 24 and put him into the inside wall as they exited turn 4. Really in the middle of turn 4 is where the contact was starting. Law just never let off the gas as he puts the 24 into the inside wall. Fortunately, we saw Carranza was able to save it after that rebound. Goes for a slide on that inside grass, but is able to just pull back up onto the racing surface and keep going, and you can see that also affected Kyle Law's ability to keep going. And here's what put John Gilbert into pit lane. It was contact from Brad Stover, this time from the inside, not a hook. He simply just dove in there and tried to fill the gap, and that put Gilbert into the outside wall. Callaway caught a piece of it, so did Rampage, who was behind that whole mess, and John Arndt took a little bit of a deflection there off of the 55 car. But that didn't bring us under caution as the 47 continued, despite being pretty damaged. We'll see what the 05 saw here. He simply tried to keep going, but unfortunately ran into the back of the 55 as he tried to avoid it. And now let's see what happened to Jack Porkins. And this time it was, once again, another hooking incident, and it was Eli Bright that executed that hook straight into the outside wall. Boy, what a hit. And clearly the end of the night for Porkins, but Eli Bright really didn't get out of that scot-free. As you can see, he's got a lot of damage to his front end. Porkins was able to wheel it back, but not going to be much consolation for him as he is done for the night. Probably going to finish 40th here. And that's what hitting a concrete wall at 100 miles an hour feels like, it sounds like. So that is going to take Jack Porkins out of the race. Eli Bright is still in the race. And we go back to green. John Gilbert going to hold up that inside line, and Kyle Law is going to have to do a little bit of work to get around, and Bernard De Barros did pack up with the inside row that time. So we're going to have a mixture. Oh, and David Davidson into the outside wall. Another hook, and this time it's from the 98 car. And just like that, another chase contender takes a heavy front-end shot. Not trailing any smoke, but I do believe that's probably going to be terminal damage. We see the pace car picked up the rest of the field as 77 comes down pit lane, but it does sound like no one is intending to pit here as we didn't get through more than one green flag lap there. So let's head straight to the replay and see what happened there as Davidson smacks the outside wall with help from the 98 car. I'm just so curious about how the drivers on the outside are just miscalculating these moves down into turn 3. Boy, heavy shot once again. And the 98 obviously takes some damage there as well. But there just seems to be an issue with these outside cars that are turning down into the corner. Even though that outside line seems to be preferred for exiting off the corner. I do want to say the 24 of Dominic Carranza was in front of the 11. I do wonder if the 11 was starting to check up to try to avoid any contact. You can see it on this onboard. We're going to head to another commercial break. But a heavy shot and a race ender for David Davidson. Fourth caution of the night here in Myrtle Beach.
Some race, huh?
Oh, yeah. You should have seen it. He got just a little bit loose coming off of turn 2. And going down the backstretch, I got right up on his spoiler and we started off into turn 3. He got loose and just lost it. It's okay. Don't worry. He walked away.
Subway Restaurants, proud sponsor of Greg Biffle and the number 16 Ford car.
Welcome back to Myrtle Beach for the first race of the round of 8 for the Elite Cup Series playoffs, and David Davidson joins Jack Porkins out of the race after a hard shot into the outside wall. We're past halfway. We've already seen the caution 4 times. Stephen Willie out in front, trying to see if he can hunt down his first win of the season. He had some great finishes a few races ago, finishing 3rd and 2nd, but these last 2 finishes of 31st and 41st have really kind of cooled off his momentum that he had been building after having one of the worst regular seasons you could possibly imagine. Right now, he's leading laps and feeling good out front, even though he's being dogged by Jake Baskinger, who's trying to go for a championship 4 spot. And Bruno De Barros is getting his rear tires lifted off the ground by the 76 car. Obviously has a little bit of damage from that incident with his teammate. And the 76 trying to shoot underneath now as NASCAR Fan 19 went to the outside and is trying to just get clear to avoid all this mess as De Barros clearly now running up to full power and just trying to take it home to the finish line. Obviously, with Davidson and Porkins out, he has a little bit of leeway to some other guys, but he certainly wants to get the best finish possible. And you can see William Brock is looking at this traffic jam in front of him with the 12 car taking up the outside line, and there's a bit of a shift there and a squeeze, and Ryan Maiden into the outside wall. And a bit of contact there with Reese Butcher. We go to caution. It was a pretty minor incident given what we've had tonight. But it is the 5th caution of the night, as there was a bit of a squeeze there in front of Brock. And Maiden is the one that unfortunately catches the outside wall. He'll catch back up with the field. and probably take it down to pit lane to get some of that body work looked at. Tough break for Maiden as he qualified last on the grid for this race. And the drivers bypassed the pit stop last time around. I believe we will see them come down this time. Very nice night here for a race as the stands are packed here in Myrtle Beach. Riding on board Baskinger as we head to pit lane. Currently 3 playoff drivers inside the top 10. The 84 being in the runner-up spot. Julio Caesar inside the top 5, and NASCAR Fan 19 has found his way to the top 10. And here we go for pit stops once again. We'll see if it's 4 tires all around. NASCAR Fan 19 is going to be the first one. He's pretty far back, didn't have the greatest qualifying runs, but he has certainly been resilient and found his way up to the top 10. He goes for 2 tires. So we'll see if that's a strategy that holds up here. And it will for Jake Baskinger. Stephen Woolley is going to maintain the lead. He took 2 tires, and Caesar's going for 2 as well as he races off of pit lane. It looks like we don't get a lot of position changes as just about everyone goes for 2 tires at this stop, right sides only, and it looks like Donnie Moore did gain 2 spots, but that's back in 10th position. The top 9 are going to stay the same as we head into this next restart, and let's see what happened here. It looks like Nick Smith caught the back end of Ryan Maiden down into Shane Borland. Bit of side-by-side contact with the 18, and they just keep pushing down into the corner as they try to avoid the 12 of DeBarros, who is running a little bit slower, and now Maiden is out of control as he is sideways going into the entry of turn 1, and he'll be the only one that ends up hitting the wall. He's going to have some pretty heavy right side damage and a bit of a squeeze there with Reese Butcher, and that ends up damaging his back end. So that's going to add some damage to Butcher. Riding on board the 12 car here. And he had it pretty well saved until they got deeper and deeper into the corner and no one let off there. So we get ready to go again, and no one dropped out of the race after that situation. We'll go back to green on lap 68. Stephen Woolley now has Kyle Law to his inside. Last time it was Carranza, but this time Law once again trying to challenge the 62 to get one of his laps back. Stephen Woolley still has the preferred line, but 75 remains resilient. And Jake Baskinger once again watching on, hoping that there's going to be a little bit of contact here, and there almost is. Law went a little bit up the racetrack. But they continue to run side by side, and the 84 is just wondering, where can I make a move to try to get to the lead? It just certainly is not working as once again Law runs wide. He is really forcing the issue. And the 62 starting to get away there. Career best finish of 17th for Law at Milwaukee Mile. Qualifies for another race once again, and he is trying to get back on the lead lap so he can gain some spots. He's been off the lead lap for most of this race, and we've got trouble down the backstretch. Adam Mundinger over, and a huge mess down into turn 3. Another car goes over. That's the 76 of Dale Jr. Fan 8883. And a multi-car crash, over a dozen cars involved. John Arndt with heavy front-end damage. We've got some playoff contenders involved in this one. And they're heading straight down to pit lane. You can see the damage that's on several of these race cars, and this apparently is the lap that they're taking their service here. That's the change from what we've seen so far. They're pitting on the first lap. Stephen Woolley goes for 2 tires, and it looks like Baskinger goes for fuel only. The 62 is not going to come out with the lead. He's going to drop 6 several spots. Wow, just like that. Willie went for 2 tires, everyone else went for none, and he loses 4 spots in the process. What a momentum shift, and let's watch what happened here on the backstretch. Mitchell Mark gets into John Gilbert down in the Mundinger, and they hit that inside wall. And the force just sends the 97 onto his side, and he's going to end up flipping down into turn 3. And there are so many cars coming right here that there's just nowhere for anyone to go. William Brock just barely escapes as Jonathan Rains gets collected. Cody Hagan, Dwayne Calloway. Nick Smith runs into the 97, who continues to flip here. Shane Borland involved. And there's Stuart Gradden on the outside. Eric Monaco once again with Eli Bright, the other JR. And at this point, everyone's just coming in here full throttle. Allison Rain, and there's where John Arndt gets his heavy contact in the front end. Boy, what a mess. Look at that. I'd say probably half the field caught at least a portion of this, but certainly at least a dozen cars down here parked and trying to escape. Another look at this from further down the racetrack, and like we saw there, Mark just caught a piece of Gilbert, who does have some damage. And boy, look at that, right in front of the flagman. And just nothing for anyone to do here. They're all coming in at full speed, not expecting to see such a mess coming through. There's where Jonathan Rains gets flipped by the 47. Brock's barely able to escape. And the unfortunate thing is everyone's trying to angle for the outside line, but now it's just the worst place to be. Tyler Markell and Jet Kraus try to come to a complete stop, and they do a pretty good job at it. Rambo runs in there. Rampage is going to do a pretty good job until the 4-car ends up coming back at the racetrack. Looks like he caught a piece of the inside wall. But Reese Butcher certainly slid through there pretty well. And Jonathan Rains, unfortunately, catches a bit more contact there after he was just about to escape. Boy, that's one of the bigger crashes we've seen so far this season, and happening on a short track. We look at it from behind, and just look at that smoke screen that the drivers are running into. Obviously, we're a little bit higher, but they're driving straight into smoke. They certainly need their spotters in that situation. '76 got immediately up onto his side, and he'd end up flipping over. But boy, so many shots there taken by these drivers. Got some onboards to look at. Starting with William Brock, who just barely escapes this. And from John Arndt, who is not quite as lucky. 6th caution of the night here at Myrtle Beach. The action is certainly picking up.
That's it, Kyle. Let's go home. All right, guys, let's get out of here.
Available 268 horsepower and intuitive mobile technology. Introducing the reinvented 2012 Camry from Toyota.
Back here at Myrtle Beach after a multi-car accident down in Turn 3, as you can imagine. Eliminated several drivers there, most notably John Arndt, one of our playoff drivers. the third to drop out. And we have a new situation here as Jake Baskinger now leading, but Bruno de Barros did not pit, got his lap back, and he's now at the front of the field. He is at the tail end of the lead lap, trying to see if he can maintain his lead lap status. And we have problems back here as Aiden Shepard goes around. Looks like William Brock and Ryan Maiden were involved, but that's going to give Bruno de Barros his lap back. So just like that, the 12 car catches a lucky break as an immediate caution is going to put de Barros back in the lead lap. He passes the pace car. And that is some serious good fortune for the 12 car, who kind of got screwed over by a situation not of his own making. And he's going to have a chance to contend for some more spots if he's able to keep up with pace. Might have to pass a few cars that have also gotten some damage. And let's see what happened here. Riding on board William Brock, who gets into 7 entering turn 1 and just never lets off. Goodness. The 7 car was out of control from the time he entered turn 1 and didn't go around until the backstretch, and then ended up taking a heavy shot there. Looking on the outside view, and that is quite the slide that he ends up taking, and the 99 is going to end up giving him that shot into the driver's side door, which I'm sure was not a good feeling for him. But should be able to continue racing on. And this will be a pretty quick yellow, as now the 12 car has gained his lap back. Kyle Law still trying to get one of his laps back. Has not been able to accomplish that yet. Dominic Carranza, however, started in front of him here. Saw Brad Stover going to move on the 98, but now coming down pit lane. He seems to have been doing that for most of the time that he's been damaged. And we see more contact here between the 24 and the 75. The 24 goes into the outside wall and gets hit by the 98. And it seems that most everyone's going to be able to slide by. That was a couple of lapped cars there that ended up getting together. In fact, everyone involved in that was a lapped car. But I can't imagine that Carranza is going to be happy with the 75 after this race, given that that's the second time that's happened. And it does not seem like anyone's going to take a pit stop this time around, so let's go straight to the tape as the 75 continues pushing the 24. This time, it was further down the front stretch, so didn't give the 24 a lot of time to respond, so he's going to be out of control going into the corner. And very nearly took out Julio Caesar there as the 75 also slides by. Sort of pretending like nothing happened there, but really could have been a bad opportunity for Caesar there. And the other JR, unfortunately, was the unlucky person to run straight into the 24 car, as NASCAR Fan 19 also having a close shave. Caleb Campbell, very close. Reese Butcher might have made a little contact there with the 24. Certainly no one took a heavier shot than the 98, and we'll see how close it was for NASCAR Fan 19 as we head into the final stages of the Myrtle Beach 500.
Hi.
Hey.
Ready, set, lick. Double stuff Oreo.
We're just a tick over 10 laps to go in the Myrtle Beach 500. Jake Baskinger looking for a win to secure his spot in the Championship 4. He gets a great jump over Nick Smith in second place. And they continue to battle behind him. Julio Caesar trying to look for some spots. Bit of a mess here with the lapped cars. Stephen Woolley currently sliding in 7th after leading a majority of this race. And how about Nick Smith up in the runner-up spot? He's gotten 3 top 5 since he won for the first time at Bull Run in Season 1. He has a couple of 4th place finishes this season, but he's looking for his best finish in the past 40 races. He can accomplish that finishing here, but he'd like to go for that victory. Oh, once again, Carranza into the grass, this time from Fitzwater Sr. and into the outside wall. The 24 goes, and we're under caution once again. Cody Hagan with the hit, and William Brock going around. And more contact, and Reese Butcher flips over. And DeBarros also involved. So many cars flipping over on this short track. I believe that brings the count up to 4. As Carranza is finally going to have his day over. Heavy damage here for the 88 of Eli Bright. Cody Hagan also coming down the pit lane. As the caution flies once again, and we're looking at a shootout to determine this one. Should bring us to single file, and this time it's Fitzwater that pushes Carranza into the wall. Or into the grass, I should say. It looks like he mostly avoids the wall here, but he is out of control. He does hit the wall there as he tries to scrub off speed. Cuts right across the front end of Philip Fry, and unfortunately the contact he makes with the wall sends him around and facing passenger door first. Look at NASCAR Fan 19 once again avoiding one, but Cody Hagan's not going to be as lucky as he slams right into the right rear quarter panel. And I think that's going to facilitate everything that happens after the fact. As you can see, Ryan Maiden coming down into William Brock. So the 23 catches an unlucky break there. Going to get slammed into the back by Jonathan Rains. Going to send the 77 up into the wall. And Reese Butcher trying to come to a stop here. And he makes contact, but then the 24 of Carranza just sends the 90 airborne. And then once again, once Eli Bright makes contact with the 24, that ricochets into the 90 and then sends him flipping over in turn 2. We'll take a couple of tumbles. So I think on the flip meter, we've got Ashley, Mundinger, Dale Jr. Fan 88, 83, and now Butcher. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody there, but 4 cars upside down on a short track is not what you expect to see as we see this from over in turn 2 at full speed. Super unfortunate for Butcher. We have mentioned before that he is super good on these short tracks. Was in line to go for victory at Mirage. Unfortunately, pit stop did not go well for him as we saw NASCAR Fan 19 slide through that. And here's what it looked like from William Brock's view. I believe he should be able to finish out this race, but unfortunately he's going to be set back a bit here as we watch on board DeBarros now. And after the trouble he went through just getting back in the lead lap, coming to a stop is about the best thing he could have done there. So he'll survive to see this final run to the checkered flag as we dropped out 3 more there. None of them being chase drivers. It's Butcher, Bright, and Carranza. But we are now going to get down to 3 laps to go. Baskinger out in front. He could be in line for a championship 4 spot. The green flag is out. Can he hold off Nick Smith for the victory here tonight? Gets a good run off the exit. Smith does not have a challenge for him right now. Julio Caesar trying to see if he can gain any more spots. Watching from the back end of the 84 car. 2 laps to go here. Smith runs a little higher, Baskinger down low, or runs around, and we have a caution flag. They are racing back to the line. Baskinger can claim the victory here if he can get back to the white flag. We have trouble down in turn 3, and the 84 is the first to cross the line. Oh, and it's the 64 who's into the wall. Just as they're coming to the yellow and the white, the 64 is out of it. And just like that, he drops below the cut line. What a turn of events there, but Jake Baskinger able to come to the caution flag in the lead. And by crossing the line, he is going to cement himself into the championship for Jake Baskinger is going to run for a title. Welcome to the championship for Jake Baskinger. Victory at Castle Gorge. He's been one of the most consistent drivers throughout the season. And with 2 races to spare, he knows he's going to be racing for a championship. Okay, let's see what happened here. First, down in the turn 1, Stephen Willie runs up on a run and pushes him out of the way. I think that's just a lot of frustration from the 62 after losing the lead on the pit strategy, and he's going to catch a bit of the outside wall in the process. I wonder if he lost any spots as a result of that push, and unfortunate for Oran, who had a really good run going. He's going to lose all those spots as you can see them running underneath. And once again, it's a turn 3 hook. This time it's Caleb Campbell that turns the 64 head on into the outside wall. And NASCAR Fan 19 cannot see the checkered flag. At the time, he was running in the 10th position. He was 13 points above the cut line heading into lap 99. And then this happened down into turn 3. Let's go to his onboard. Super tough way for the veteran driver to go out after making a round of 8 last season. Looking at these top 10 results, it was a season best day for Nick Smith getting that 2nd position. It was a career best day for Austin Rogers in 3rd. Got that top 20 at Columbia. Hadn't had a finish like that since. Julio Caesar, great points put on the board, up in the 4th position after the troubles that several drivers had today. And it looks like Stephen Willie had a net loss of 1 spot after that incident with Irwan in the turn 1 as Philip Fry and Zachary Fitzwater Sr. were able to slide by. And we mentioned it on the grid, Rampage hadn't had a top 20 in 9 straight races. Well, how about a top 10 to end that streak? Moving back toward the top 20 drivers, you look at this list and you gotta remember, Adam Mundinger was upside down in that huge multi-car accident in turn 3. He still came home on the lead lap with a top 20 finish. That is one of the more insane things that comes out of this list. We also saw Aiden Shepard around at one point. He comes home 13th. Rambo was in a couple of incidents. He finished 16th. Ryan Maiden had a shot in there, 17th. William Brock able to come home in the 18th position. And frankly, given the issues that some of these playoff drivers had, he'll probably be content with a top 20, just getting out of this racetrack alive. DeBarros caught a really lucky break getting that quick caution to get back on the lead lap. Unfortunately, didn't really do much with it as he'll finish 21st. And really unfortunate for Oran, who was up there in the top 10. And unfortunately, that slide at the end relegates him to the back of the lead lap field. Kyle Wall never able to get that 2nd lap back as he finishes 23rd. NASCAR Fan 19 will end up with an official finishing position of 25th. And then there's the laundry list of drivers that fell victim to the issues we had today. And several playoff drivers unfortunately involved. John Arndt in the huge accident. David Davidson had his moment into the wall along with Jack Porkins, both getting caught up in incidents in turn number 3. So let's update the chase grid and put Jake Baskinger's name in green. He does not have to worry about what happens in the next 2 races. He will compete for a title in the Championship 4, and now the gap between DeBarros and NASCAR Fan 19 is 4 points. Certainly not anything that can't be made up in these next few races, but unfortunate given where NASCAR Fan 19 was running at the time that he had his accident. And down to Jack Porkins trying to get back into the cut line. That is a 19-point spread, so he can certainly pick that up if one of those drivers up there, like Brock or DeBarros, has an issue in the next 2 rounds. And as far as the eliminated drivers go, Reese Butcher was not able to capitalize on the short track and his mastery of those races, but Philip Fry made a great jump with his top 5, able to jump a few spots up in the 10th and is just 7 points behind Butcher. as he continues to try to fight for some points positions, even though they won't be fighting for a title this season. For the point positions outside of the chase, not a ton of shifting this time around. Jack Krause was able to gain a few spots to get back into 18th position. What I'd really like to focus on is Nick Smith, now in 28th. That is a 6-spot jump after his second place run today. And unfortunately for Stephen Willey, with Dwayne Calloway qualifying for the race, still needs his own page on the standings chart, but only an 8-point spread can be made up to get the 36th position for season's end. And as far as the team standings go, AMI has to look over their shoulders a little bit as Ramco Motorsports picks up a little bit of the slack. Could have been an overtake for the team had NASCAR FIA 19 not crashed before the finish of the race. And for Rookie of the Year, put Baskinger to the top of the list after that masterful win. He is trying to secure both of those titles for this season. We'll see if Jack Krause or Jack Porkins can say anything about that before this is all over. So that is going to do it from Myrtle Beach. It was all the action we expected and more. And after it was all said and done, one driver has clinched his way into the championship for Jake Baskinger, the winner tonight, and will race for a title. For NFRN and RVN, my name is Colin Denton. We hope to see you next time.